محمد وآل محمد. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for Marhuma Gulsum Zahra Hassan, daughter of Professor Zamir Al-Hassan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin, iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في آناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا ممن بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مزيعا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر ألا أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الإخلاص والصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اللهم ارحمه واغفره واشره بالخاتم أنبياء محمد صلوات.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing, but I'll try. All this gathering, I'm very thankful to you and all that have come with the families. Two of the people who passed away, one was Kusum, my daughter. And just 1 week before that, one of my friends, who came to see Kusum. And over the long weekend, he went to Indianapolis. Drove 10 hours back. He was an uncle to Kusum. He was my younger brother, who was my older brother, who was my teacher. He was my student also, all together. And so was Kusum. Because we learned from each other, we developed each other status of knowledge. And for this reason, I would like to say that this Fatiha and every Fatiha we had was for both of them. So he raised the first noise that this is a cancer in the brain rather than anywhere else. Because he has been a cancer scientist for about maybe 45 years. His name was Rifat Siddiqui. He was professor at Virginia University in Richmond and associate dean of graduate studies. He came over the long weekend of 4th of July. A day before the long weekend started, he came, saw Kulthum, talked to her for about 1.5 hours. And then he came with me. He slept with us in the same room. And I still have the water that I brought you. He brought all the water and everything that could be eaten at home. But then he said, I want to go early. I said, don't go early. It's too early. I will go with you. He said, no, let me go to my children. He has 2 children, not children, they are grown up. One is heart specialist, and the other one is something to do with the nursing plus degree in masters. Both of them are very, very mature. But I said to him that, look, just wait for me. I will go with you to the hospital. He said, if I go early, I will be able to do some work, and my children will be having long weekend, more time with my family. He arrived 10 o'clock at night at home. I was talking to him until Maryland, so that he enters Maryland border, and then 70 he can take to Indianapolis. He drove 10 hours. In 5 hours, he was in the hospital with massive heart attack. He died exactly one Thursday before Kusum died. And Kusum was told, I told Kusum, Rafa died. Kusum said, yes, oh, we are going to have his Fasaha on Saturday. Because we used to have Quran reading everywhere on Saturdays or Sunday. So I said, okay, next day we'll have the Fatiha. And she remembered everything. So I said, fine. Then after that, she asked me, it was about 1.5 years ago. He came, I said, no, yesterday. That gave me first indication that Kusum's brain had the tumor rather than anything else. And within 10 days, we never treated the brain. Everything else was treated. And Rifat was saying from the beginning that it could be the brain that can be found even in the guts. It can go that far. Okay? So she was always treated with the pancreatic cancer. Rifat Siddiqui was uncle to him, her, to entire family, means all my children. Okay? And not only that, but his children also consider us exactly part of the family. Okay? He died on 5th of Muharram. My daughter died on 12th of Muharram. Before she died, she told me that today is 10th of Muharram. 2 days before that, I said, I'm just describing this just to make you feel that I was so lucky that both of them died in Muharram. Because we say, Muharram takes care of everybody. Okay? His wife remembered that it was 5th of Muharram. I remember it was 12th of Muharram. We had basically a Majlis. I was telling Kusum what happened in Muharram. And she said, it's very, very sad story. It is all the dimensions. I did not know that she is going to die 2 days later. I said, it is multidimensional. It has got everything in it. Then she said, is this Abbas the same as the other Abbas? I said, no, one is uncle of Prophet. So she had all this memory. Okay? And the other one is uncle of Sakina. These are 2 different Abbas. She was confusing with Abbas, which was the Prophet's uncle, and he converted to Islam after Badr. Okay? He came at that. So she was thinking of this Abbas as Abbas. So all these faculties were working, but she was not aware of what time or how long ago he came. I'm giving you all this information because one of the most important things that happened is that the diagnosis was wrong, and pancreatic cancer was being treated for very long. Nothing was paid attention about this thing or this thing. Actually, it was in the nose, something which is 95% benign, but in her case, it was active. It was never treated. And therefore, okay, I'm a solid-state physicist. I'm also, my students do the cancer treatments in that cancer center, okay. Professor has been doing cancer sciences for 50 years. All these facilities were available to us, but nothing worked. So when it is time, as Imam Hussain has put very, very beautifully, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, it becomes Imam Hussein's sentence. How does it become? Rizwan bi qadaihi wa taslim. Having said that, now let me just go through some highlights of life of both of them, okay? All of you are very highly educated. You must know what is your value. If you don't know your value, your children's value, your children's education value, it's always possible to have darkness under the lamp, as we say in Urdu, chiragh tale andhera ho sakta hai. Okay? So educate your children to value yourself. I was calculating with me some, with my son. He did history major, okay? I calculated this is America. People believe in money, okay? Those who don't worship at least get affected by money, impressed by money, okay? So when I told my son that calculate how much money is spent before one master's student in education is created or comes out of the system, you know what is the value? Every student every year gets $33,000 federal money is spent for making one student per year from first grade count up to 12th grade. How many students become master's student? Count that it came out, I did calculation right in front of him, $4 million are spent before one master's student is coming out of that crowd. So consider yourself as the jewels or the diamonds, and acres of diamonds are there in you. I'm a professor for about 50 years. 74 actually, 74 I started teaching in Aligarh. Then 76 I started doing PhD, Australia, etc., etc. I would say to you the best value you have brought to this country, those who have come with the degree, is your wealth of education. You have millions and millions and millions of dollars sitting in your brain. I was so proud of my daughter. I thought that she was number one in first grade in the school. Number one, second, number one in third, number one in fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth, 10, 11, 12, she was valedictorian. I did not even know. It was in 3 countries, 3 continents. Iran, where she was in the first grade. Australia, she did second grade. And third grade onwards, she did everything possible. I did not even realize that she was valedictorian. I brought all those things with me. But then she said, Abba, I want to do physics major. I said, fine. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing that she is admitted to Caltech, which is #1 program in physics. I said, you didn't tell me that you are applying for physics at Caltech. She said, because you told me it's #1. I applied. She got admitted. And you know how prestigious that program is. They don't teach anything, but prestige is there. Okay? It is #1, but they're so arrogant that their arrogance is famous. So I said, look, do you have any reservation? She said, also, they're very arrogant. I don't like snobbish people, proud people, arrogant people. I said, you are the one who are going to prove this wrong. So go there. I'm all with you. She went to Caltech, then couple of years later, after that, she came. She says, they don't teach anything. I did not go to Caltech to learn nothing. That's the fact. With all Ivy League schools and famous schools, they don't teach properly. But I did not know. She spent 2 years there. Then she did Wesleyan, chemistry and physics major, and biology. Biology also. So she used to do a lot of law. Then she went to University of Pennsylvania. All of you are unique, and you can do all this. Why? Because I saw myself alone. Okay? What was happening in my country, where I am coming from, I should not talk bad about my country. It has got enormous good things going on. But everything is done by bribe. I did first position. Why? Because I was able to bribe the teacher. And I have not paid the bribe yet. So, because I have not done haram, okay? Paying bribe is haram. So when I got the position, I promised 1 kilogram of barfi or some kind of mithai, okay? That was very expensive at that time. But after that, I didn't get any position. Why? Because there were enough people who could bribe better and they had connections. In India now, after 30 years, 40 years, bribe is the only equalizer. I have left India in 1976. I never went to India for this reason, because I never paid bribe for anything, just once only. When I was when I was coming from Pakistan, on Amritsar station, they said, unless you pay bribe, we cannot give you the tickets. So my family was the reason. Okay? So all these are the values. Okay? We should know our values. Even ulamas who never thought of going to Mimbar, if somebody is reading Quran, even with sort of singing voice, those ulamas, children are giving bribe in India. Thank God. We are in this country, and inshallah, we have got the wealth of these people who are good in religion, inshallah. And Maulana will tell you about Hazrat Kulsum, why I named her Kulsum. Bismillah.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. الصراط عليه. To recite another Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Kulsum Zahra Hassan Binte Professor Zamirul Hassan. Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين استقم الصراط غير المغضوب عليهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله عنده علم الساعة وينزل الغيث ويعلم ما في الأرحام وما تدري نفس ماذا تكسب غدا وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت إن الله عليم خبير. صلوات بيجي محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First and foremost, condolences to the family of Marhuma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the virtue of this majlis, elevate the status of Marhuma, give her a place in the Jawar of Masumeen alayhim salatu wassalam. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He continues to bestow sabr to Zamir Bhai over here and rest of the family for the loss that they have suffered. Indeed, it is not difficult, or it is very difficult rather. It's not easy, what I meant to say, for a parent to sit in the majlis of their child. Usually, and the normalcy is, it's the other way around. It's the children who sit in the majlis of their parents. And that's how Nizam works. But in some rare cases, this too also happens. And of course, it's one of the biggest tests that anyone can ever go through. It's not easy. And of course, anyone who is Sahib Aulad can relate to that. The last thing that you can imagine out of the most difficult scenarios that you can imagine to be in, the last thing you want to be in is in the scenario where you are sitting on the qabr of your own child. The child that you raised with your own hands, the child that grew up in your hands, the child that you took care of their, every wish and desire that they had, child that you saw your own reflection in, right? And then day comes, that child is no longer with you. And so that's one of the most difficult things, unimaginable, and only those who have gone through this difficulty can understand this phenomenon. And therefore, before I get to this ayat, which I recited for you from Surah Luqman, the last ayat, and I won't be too long, you know my habit that I'm very concise in these Eisal-e-Thawab Majalis, that there's a tradition from our Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And it is befitting that tomorrow is his wiladat that I share this tradition with you, so that we get tabarruk of understanding the kalam of Rasulullah, and at the same time, we give this hadiyah to Imam of our time as well. One day, Prophet was sitting in masjid, and there came one of his very, very sincere companions by the name Abu Dhar. And Rasulullah when he was sitting there, Abu Dhar found this opportunity to be a great opportunity where no one else was around and he could ask whatever he wanted. Now, of course, no comparison whatsoever. I'm only giving this example for taqarrub al-dhihni, so you can relate to this. Without any comparison, of course, where's the Zat of Rasulullah and where's someone like me who's a student of this maktab. But a lot of times, same thing happens. When people meet us after a majlis, it's in the crowd, people are sitting and they're asking, and they can't ask their, private questions. So they again say, Maulana, can we get some extra time? When we get some time with you privately, and they sit and then, or for example, especially people find this opportunity when we're traveling, or a person like me, when I'm traveling in Muharram and Ayyam Azah, and I'm staying with someone. Just this Muharram, this past Muharram that I was staying with someone. I was in LA for 3 days. I was staying with this individual. He said, Maulana, this is a great opportunity for me to have an alim with me at my house one-on-one for 3 days. Because where do we find scholars nowadays? They're very busy and so on and so forth. So I told him that I'm no scholar, I'm just a talib ilm, humble student of this maktab. But he was trying to make it special for me that I am one-on-one with the alim-e-din. And what could be better than that? Similarly, if you can relate to that, if you have seen great ulama of our time, people like Allama Zishan, Hada Javadi, Naqan Saab, and other great ulama of the past, and you got the opportunity to spend time with them, you would understand what I mean. Abu Dhar finds this opportunity to see Rasulullah. Now, no one else is there. He uses this time not to waste, not to talk about, anything which would waste his time. But rather he gets right to business. He said, oh Rasulullah, tell me something which will benefit me in this world and in the hereafter. So then there's a lengthy hadith which Rasulullah teaches only Abu Dhar. And he begins each sentence with the word, Ya Abu Dhar, Ya Abu Dhar. Of course, when the word Abu goes into the form of Fatha, it becomes Aba. So you got Aba, Abu, and Abi. So you'll find Abu Dhar, Abu Dhar, and Abi Dhar. But of course, the word Ya comes in the beginning. It's for munada. It's for calling someone. It tends to give what? It gives Fatha to the word that comes after it. So the Fatha form of Abu is Aba. So Ya Abu Dhar, Ightanim khamsan qabla khamsin. Utilize 5 things before these 5 things get to you. He says, Shababaka qabla haramik. Utilize your shabab, meaning what? Your youth. The age that you are in your youth, utilize that before you get old. Before these youth years are not around, and now you're an old man or old woman. Because the energy that you have when you're young, the ability that you have when you're young, the thing that you can accomplish when you're young, you're no longer able to do so when you are old. And all my elders over here sitting, they can, associate with this, and they can testify for that. That they'll continue to give you this advice. You're young, mashallah. Do this, mashallah. Go after this. You can study. You can take another course. You can get another master's. You can get another degree. You can go ahead and you're still young. You got plenty of time. Or a lot of time what we hear from our elders when we come to the mimbar is, Maulana, our time is gone. It's for the kids and the children that we have. We need to educate them, so please address them. At that point, I tell them, no, your time is not gone. While I'm going to speak to the kids, but I'm equally going to go ahead and address you as well. Because we all need this education equally. And that has to be part of our daily routine, that we remind ourselves on daily basis that we need to continue to progress. Utlubul ilm min al-mahdi ila al-lahd. Continue to learn from the cradle till the grave. So Rasulullah said what? Shababaka qabla haramik. Utilize your youth years before you get old. Because when you're youth, you're able to pray standing up. When you get old, you have to now resort to sitting on a chair. When you're youth, you're able to run however you want to. But when you get old, you won't be able to do that. When you're youth, you're able to, travel. When you get old, there are limitations. Now you won't be able to travel the way you were able. So all of these are some worldly benefits that you have when you're young. But on the contrary, we see the older the person gets, the more ibadat comes into play. The younger the person is, the lesser the ibadat. I hear my own personal experience, find elderly fighting me that they want to fast this month of Ramadan, although the doctor says you shouldn't be fasting. While at the same time, the younger kids will come up and ask, what can I do for an excuse not to fast tomorrow? Baba, you're young. Why are you running away from this fast? While this 80-year-old is fighting. Somehow, Maulana, give me permission so I can go ahead and fast. I said, no, the doctor said you can't. You giving this fidya is equal to you fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not depriving you of the thawab of fasting. All you got to do is give fidya, and you get the thawab of a person as if they have fasted. The younger the people are, the more you have to tell them about hijab and everything. The older they get, hijab on hijab on hijab. While Quran is saying what? The ayat of Quran says, when a lady gets to advance in age, she doesn't have to care so much as far as her hijab is concerned. It's okay. Because right now, at that moment, she doesn't really have any desire to get married. So even if she does not appropriately observe this hijab, it's okay for her. This is the ayat of Quran. This is not a hadith, it's an ayat of Quran. But what we see is the contrary, it's the opposite of it. The younger they are, the lesser the hijab. The older they get, the more the hijab. So unfortunately, a lot of these things that have to do with religion and deen, you see them in older age and you don't see them in the younger age. What could be the reason? That's where the question arises. What could be the reason? That we all, mashallah, when we get older, we become more and more religious. But we're young, we're not as religious. As if religion is something that we need to avoid. Or the obligations of religion don't come upon us until a certain age. Maybe when we're 50, maybe when we're 60. While Islam tells you that you become baligh at a young age. Why are we putting it off until we are, for example, advanced in age? This is a kilidi question. It's a key question that we need to ask. You see more and more worship and ibadat when we get older. You see less and less of ibadat when we're younger. Why is that the case? Ask this question yourselves and then apply that in your own houses, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, of course, that hadith is lengthy, so I won't go in the entire hadith. But what I wanted to use from this part of the hadith where Rasulullah says, Shababaka qabla haramik, utilize your youth age before you get old. The follow-up to that, Rasulullah said the following. He said, Ya Abadar, ma min shabbin, same shabab, ma min shabbin taraka dunya wa afna shababahu fi ta'atillahi illa atahu Allahu ajra ithnayna wa sab'ina siddiqa. It's a young man or a young woman in this case. We are here for a majlis of a young woman. A young man or a young woman who bids farewell to this world, as Kulsum has bid farewell to this world. A young man or young woman who bids farewell to this world and devotes his or her youth in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be given the reward same as that of the 72 prophets, Siddiq. Not a single prophet. Our enemies, while they are going around and talking about, 72 hurs and whatnot, giving a bad name to the religion, Riwayat of Rasulullah is talking about 72 Siddiq and Nabi. That when you devote your life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning what? When you eat for the sake of Allah. When you drink for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that you do is solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It says, Ma min shabin tarakat dunya, has left this world. Wa afna shababahu. Afna means annihilated himself. फना कर दिया अपने आप को इस दुनिया की खातिर. लेकिन किस में? फी ताअतिल्लाह. Sacrifice his life, sacrifice his world in the ita'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is this person? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the ajr of a 72 Nabi to this person. Imagine the ajr of one Nabi, let alone ajr of 72 Anbiya that becomes shamil hal of you. Salawat bheje Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That is why the youth years are very important. And those who are still in their youth, you should tell them this, that they should be able to understand this before they're gone past this youth age. That's why Shair Farsi said it very beautifully. Tawba kardan dar jawani shivage payghambarist. Tawba kardan dar jawani shivage payghambarist. Gurge zalim dar gurge zalim shiva payghambarist waqt piri gurge zalim mishavat parhezgar. Kya kaha? Kaha, when you do the tawbah while you're still young in your youth years, this is the method of Anbiya. Waqt piri, when you get old, gurge zalim, a wolf, a zalim wolf even goes out and says, okay, forgive me what I did. They start doing tawbah at the old age. A wolf that has done nothing but oppression all these years, at the end of the day, they're going to go ahead and ask for the forgiveness and do tawbah. But the real charm is if you're able to go ahead and perform this tawbah while you're still at this young age. This is Eisal-e-Thawab Majlis. I recited this ayat from Surah Luqman, ayat number 34, which is the last ayat of this surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat says, Inna Allaha indahu ilmus sa'ah. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only knows the time of Qayamat. Ilmus sa'at is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, ilm is something for which Bani Adam, and especially you and I who belong to this Maktab-e Ahl Bayt, should take pride in. This is our Turre Imtiyaz, if you want to call it. People like Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, who wouldn't just utter these words, Saluni, Saluni, Qabla an tafqiduni. That ask me until I'm no longer amongst you. They wouldn't just utter these words if it wasn't for the immense knowledge that they possessed. But they dedicated everything that they got from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is my own. Everything that I have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gave me. Why? It gives credibility. When today someone comes up to you and says, I've studied at Harvard, and it gives credibility to the degree that you have gotten. Someone comes up to you and says, I've studied at the Hawza of Najaf. That gives credibility to that person that now we want you to sit on the mimbar, for example. Someone comes up and says, I've studied at this Hawza or that Hawza. Right away, they're adding that to the credibility of theirs. You walk into a doctor's office, all the degrees that are on the display, I don't think they really need to display all their degrees, but they still do it nonetheless. As if they're trying to prove that these are all genuine. I have not gone past, as Zamir Bhai was saying, with bribes and other stuff. No, I have earned it with my, hard work. And therefore, you can trust that I'm going to treat you all right. I'm not going to make any mistake. Or at least I know what I'm doing. What does it do? It gives you that credibility. When you belong to this maktab, you already have this credibility. When you associate yourself to Ahlul Bayt, when you talk about the fact that we are the followers of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, who said, Radina bil qismat al-Jabbare. We are razi with the qismat of Jabbar. Jabbar is one of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That lana ilmun walil a'da'i mal. We are razi with the qismat of Jabbar, that the taqsim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done, that for us is ilm, and for our enemy is mal. فَإِنَّ الْعِلْمَ, because ilm will never pass, will never die, la yafna. وَإِنَّ الْمَالَ, the mal that you have will go away very soon. He said, we are razi with the qismat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He gave us ilm. Ilm came into our inheritance. Ilm was our legacy and miras, not mal. And then when Imam started explaining, this is a lengthy hadith, a person came and asked Imam about mal and wealth. Imam gave a different response to every single person that came. Person came and asked Imam, which is better, ilm or mal? Imam said, well, mal is not better than ilm. Ilm is better. He said, what is the dalil? He said, ilm protects you while you protect mal. The knowledge that you have protects you. With that ilm, you do things to protect yourself. But the wealth, what do? You're protecting it. You put it into your savings account, you put it into your bank, you put it into your locker, you put it into this safe or that safe. What are you doing? You're trying to protect this wealth. But it's the other way around when it comes to knowledge. Imam, another person came. He said, Imam, what is better, ilm or knowledge? Imam said, knowledge is better. Why? Because when you spend it, it increases. While wealth, when you spend it, it decreases. Go ahead and tell something. A hadith, share it with 10 people. This hadith has increased. This ilm has been disseminated. It has been spread about. But when it comes to giving the money, if I go ahead and start giving $100 to everyone in the crowd, whatever I had will decrease. But of course, the concept of decrease when it comes to zakat should not be taken in the same way. The concept of decreasing of wealth when it comes to khums should not be taken in the same way. He said, Maulana, then how do you justify khums and zakat? You just said wealth when you give, it decreases. But now you're telling us to go ahead and give zakat. Go ahead and give khums as well. First of all, learn what is zakat and what is khums. Zakat is 2.5% on your earnings. Khums is 20% on your savings. There's a difference between the two. If you're earning from those 9 sources which are mentioned in Rawayat, of course, because Quran does not talk about the ahkam of zakat as it doesn't talk about the ahkam of salat or the ahkam of hajj or the ahkam of khums. Where do we learn all of the ahkamat? We learn it from the kalam of Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, if you deal in these 9 things, then of course, zakat is wajib upon you. But if not, there's only one zakat that is obligatory upon you, that is zakatul badan. When you give zakat fitrah after the month of Ramadan. That's the only zakat upon you. But khums, regardless. Why? The first ayat of the 10th juz says what? Innama ghanimtum. Whenever you receive something, فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُمْ شَيْئًا فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. وَاعْلَمُوا, know this, whenever you gain something, ghanimat, 1/5 of it belongs to Allah, His apostle, and the family of Rasulullah. So the 20% goes as far as the khums is concerned. But here, you would say, Maulana, you just told us spending money decreases. Why should we spend this money? Why should we go out and give zakat? Why should we go out and give khums? The fact of the matter is, you go ahead and ask any gardener who deals in a garden. You see, when all of these different branches are going out of control, what does the gardener do? He chops them off. He said, don't chop it off. You chop off this branch, you're decreasing this tree. He said, no, I'm not decreasing it. The moment I chop it off, the newer branches will come out of it. The better fruits will come out of it. The better leaves will come out of it. The better flowers will come out of it. If I don't chop it off, nothing of good will come out of this. Guess what? When you chop off this zakat from your wealth, when you chop off this savings from your khums, from this savings, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides you even more and a better wealth in the place. Salawat dijiye Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. So therefore Imam ﷺ gave us that concept that of course, while ilm is definitely better than this wealth of yours, you need to protect it while ilm is protecting you. When you spend it, it decreases. The other thing is spreading when you do it. And then Imam gave many such answers. Inshallah, one day I'll bring that hadith and I'll quote all the different answers that Amir al-Mu'mineen gave as far as this ilm is concerned. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand that maut is barhaq. and nobody can run away from this mouth. La mafarra min hukumatik, as Imam says, La farara min hukumatik, as you hear and read in Dua Kumail. Similarly, there's no farar from maut. A person came to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said, Maula, I have difficulty controlling my desires, and I end up committing sins. Imam said, it's easy. I'll give you a formula how you can avoid that. Imam said, do these things and sin as much as you want to. Here, you might think that Imam is giving you the license to commit sins. No. Imam says, number one, ukhruj min wilayatillah. Leave the wilayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wadhnab ma shi'ta. And commit as many sins as you want to. He said, Imam, I can't leave the wilayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Imam said, okay, la ta'kul min rizqillah wadhnab ma shi'ta. Don't eat from the rizq Allah has given you and commit as many sins as you want to. He said, Mama, what am I going to eat then if I can't eat from the rizq Allah is providing? He said, then fine. When Malakul Maut comes to take your qabz-e-ruh, push him away. Don't go with him. And commit as many sins as you want. He said, oh, I don't have any sin in that regards either. Malakul Maut will come, and when he will take my soul away, I won't have any say in it. Then Imam says, Bani Adam, if you don't have the ability to leave the dunya that Allah has created for you, exit the realm of the wilayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exiting the realm of the wilayat of Anbiya, exiting the realm of the wilayat of Awliya and Amirul Mu'mineen. If you don't have the ability to eat from outside of what Allah has provided to you, if you cannot turn away this Malakul Maut, then the easiest thing is to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't commit this sin. Realize who are you. Sometimes we see that sin is very small. Allah won't notice. No, Allah will notice, of course. The people won't notice. That's what we are more worried about, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is Sattarul Uyub. We are worried that nobody else saw us do this thing. Allah has seen us do this thing. Allah has seen us commit those sins. People is what we are worried about, that they did not see us do this. Why? Abru Rizvi. We will be looked at amongst the public as we have no respect, none whatsoever. Had we worried about the same way with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regarding any sin that comes and proposes itself in front of us. So why is insan fearful in leaving this world? Is there two reasons that insan is fearful in leaving this world? And I'll bring it to a close as it's getting late. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He said the first reason, Eisal-e-Thawab, or the reason for insan to be afraid of maut, is mentioned to be your sins. Why? Because sins and guna that you have not repented for, because insan who is gunahgar is madiyun to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hear this out. When you borrow money, someone gives you dain, you become madiyun. Now you owe this person this money. And of course, we all know the importance of paying back. In fact, when it comes to a person who leaves this world, first and foremost, their duyun, their debts are paid off before the inheritance is divided amongst the heirs, right? You first pay off the debts. So this person who has committed sin and has not done repentance yet is what? Is madiyun to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? These ahkam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made wajib upon us, these are namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you don't take care of the namus of an individual, how sad do they feel? If someone says something to disrespect my mother, or to disrespect my sister, or to disrespect anyone who I consider to be my namus, my spouse, how do I feel about it? I won't take any word about it. That's it. That is the last thing you could do to show disrespect to me. You can say whatever you want to me, but when you disrespect my family, right away, that is where I draw a line. Guess what? Those are your namus. Allah ki namus kya hai? Ye ahkam. Riwayat mentioned these ahkam that he has made obligatory upon us. These are the namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you neglect these ahkam, you are basically doing disrespect to namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person leaves this world, he's madyun to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is one of the reasons why this person is afraid of death. Number 2, and we'll conclude. Not knowing, na danistane haqiqat maut. When you do not know the haqiqat of maut, that person is afraid. If you know the haqiqat of maut, then you're not afraid. Would you tell a person who spent 30 years in a prison that tomorrow you will be freed? You think that person is going to be crying? Or that person says, no, I'm okay in this prison. I don't want to go outside. No, you have an entire family. You are stuck in this prison for 30 years. You get to see the world now. That person could not wait until he gets out of that prison. Guess what? This is a prison that we are in as well. This world is a prison for us. When a mu'min departs from this world, it is as if he's exiting a prison. So therefore, not knowing the haqiqat of maut is the reason why a person is afraid of maut. But of course, we belong to the maktab, where maut ahla min al-asal. Right? When Imam Hussein asks young Qasim, "O Qasim, how do you see maut?" Qasim responds by saying, "Ahla min al-asal." I find maut to be sweeter than honey. शहद से भी ज़्यादा मीठी। जवाब देखिए आप, ये वो घराना है जिस घराने में बच्चों की यूँ तरबियत की जाती है। अमीरुल मोमिनीन जब जनाब सैयदा को गुस्ल दे रहे थे, वो वक्त याद है इमाम को कि रसूलुल्लाह की वफ़ात के बाद से सैयदा ज़्यादा दिन जिंदा ना रहीं। इमाम गुस्ल दे रहे हैं और गुस्ल देते देते इमाम की चीख निकलती है। लोग कहते हैं, अगर कोई हमसे पूछता कि तमाम अरब में, तमाम दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा बहादुर शख्स कौन है, तो हम बिला झिझक कहते हैं अली इब्न अबी तालिब। लेकिन उस दिन चीख सुन के पता चला कि अली भी अपने इमोशंस और अली के भी एहसासात हैं। मैं पूछा, अली आप क्यों इस तरीके से रोए और आपकी चीखें बुलंद हुईं? कहा, जनाब सैयदा का पहलू शिकस्ता देखा, और पहलू शिकस्ता देखा तो मेरी चीख निकल गई कि सैयदा का पहलू शिकस्ता था और उन्होंने इस चीज़ के कभी मुझसे गिला शिकवा ना किया। कितने दिनों से पहलू शिकस्ता होगा? शायद उसी दिन जब वो कील चुभी होगी, जब सैयदा दर और दीवार के दरमियान पिस गई थी। अजरुकुम अल्लाह। उस वाक़े को कुछ रिवायात के मुताबिक 75 दिन, कुछ रिवायात के मुताबिक 95 दिन उनकी वफ़ात हुई है, शहादत वाक़ होती है रसूलुल्लाह की वफ़ात के। तो जनाब सैयदा ने कम अज़ कम 95 दिन तक इस मुसीबत से गुज़री होंगी, इस परेशानी से गुज़री होंगी। इमाम वक्त ने किस तरीके से इस चीज़ को झेला होगा। हमारे वक्त एक मरजा ये पढ़ते हैं वाक़यात, वो कहते हैं अगर आपकी उंगली की हड्डी चटक जाए तो जब कहीं टकराती है तो कितना दर्द होता है। अब आप सोचिए, सैयदा की पसलियाँ चटकी हुई थी, जब सांस लेती होंगी कितना दर्द होता होगा। अजरुकुम अल्लाह। और सिर्फ यही नहीं है कि जनाब सैयदा इस दुनिया से इस तरीके से गई हैं, बच्चियों को गिरिया करने की भी इजाज़त नहीं है। ए ज़ैनब, ए उम्मे कुलसूम, ज़रा ज़ोर से गिरिया मत करना। जनाब सैयदा की वसीयत है कि शहर वालों को पता न चले कि सैयदा का जनाजा उठाया जा रहा है, उनकी तदफीन की जा रही है। सिर्फ गिने चुने लोग हैं जो जनाब सैयदा खातून जन्नत के जनाजे में मौजूद हैं, इसलिए कि उनकी वसीयत थी। लेकिन उम्मे कुलसूम और ज़ैनब ने कैसे ज़ब्त किया होगा अपने गिरिये को, वो भी उस शफीक मादर के लिए कि जिसने उनकी ऐसी तरबियत की थी। लेकिन हाँ, जब अमीरुल मोमिनीन की ज़रूरत लगी थी, जब अमीरुल मोमिनीन को लाया गया घर में, हसन हुसैन को गिरिए से रोका, लेकिन जब ज़ैनब आती है, उम्मे कुलसूम आती है, तो अली ने गिरिए से न रोका, बेटियों को गिरिया करने दिया। शायद ये कहना चाह रहे हो, ऐ बेटियों आमादा हो जाओ, इसके बाद सब गिरिया ही गिरिया है। अरे हसन की शहादत होगी, आंसू बहाने होंगे, लेकिन करबला में हुसैन के सर को कटता देखोगी। अला लानतुल्लाहिल कौमिज़ ज़ालिमीन व सयअलमुल लज़ीना ज़लमू अय्य मुनक़लिबिन यनक़लिबून। इन्ना लिल्लाहि व इन्ना इलैहि राजिऊन। बार अल्लाह हमारी इस बात कबूल फरमा, हम गुनाहगार हैं, हमारे गुनाहों से दरगुजर फरमा, हमें अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम के नक्शे कदम पर चलने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमें उनकी तालीमात पर अमल करने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमारे इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा, हमें उनके आवान व अंसार में शुमार कर। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम। एक दफ़ा सूरह फातिहा की तिलावत करके मरहुमा कुलसूम ज़हरा हसन बिनते ज़मीरुल हसन की रूह को इसाल कर दें। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद। मुतवज्जिह ज़ियारत। अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूलल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबीयल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या हबीबल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या खीरतल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका व अला जद्दिका व अबीका व अला उम्मिका व अखीका व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू, अस्सलामु अलैका या गरीबल गुरबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुईन अद-दुअफ़ा वल फ़ुक़रा, अस्सलामु अलैका या शम्स अश-शुमूस व अनीस अन-नुफ़ूस, अय्युहल मदफ़ून बिअर्ज़ि तूसली इब्न मूसा ar-रदा व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू, अस्सलामु अलैका साहिबल असर वज़ ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैका इमामल इंस वल जान, अस्सलामु अलैका शरीकल क़ुरआन, अज्जलल्लाहु तआला फ़रजक व सहलल्लाहु मख़रजक व ज़ुहूरक व जअलना मिन अवानिक व अंसारिक व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।